Mr. Frost.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since the beginning of his campaign for president, Donald Trump in 2015 has been consistently propagating hateful, extremist rhetoric about immigrants, including falsehoods depicting all Mexican immigrants as criminals, as drug dealers, and as rapists. At campaign events just last month, Trump claimed that immigrants are poisoning the blood of this country. The Republican witnesses here today are the latest in a line of people spreading racist, far-right fiction in an attempt to dehumanize immigrants. Mr. Beer, I want to get back to some truth in this conversation. Is someone more likely to commit a crime if they are born in the United States or if they are foreign-born?
If they are born in the United States.
And you wrote in a Time article that I have right here, quote, no matter how researchers slice the data, through the numbers show that immigrants commit fewer crimes than native-born Americans. But that's not good enough for Trump followers. They firmly believe that immigrants make America less safe. What the anti-immigration crowd needs to understand is that not only are immigrants less likely to commit crimes than native-born Americans, but they also protect us from crime in several ways, end quote. And you're 100% right in that. Several studies show that immigrants are 46% less likely to commit a crime, and that in communities that have had an influx of undocumented immigrants, crime actually goes down. Collectively, American undocumented immigrants pay an estimated $11.64 billion in state and local taxes every single year. And the average undocumented immigrant has been living and contributing to the economic success of our country for between 10 and 14 years. These are folks who are literally putting more into our system than they're taking out because they're undocumented. These are our friends, our family, teachers, substitute teachers, people who work in the medical field, people who work in hospitality, our neighbors, my family. Mr. Beer, how might white supremacist falsehoods about an invasion put immigrant communities in danger?
Look, we've talked about this before. We've seen the El Paso shooter manifesto, the Buffalo shooter. You go to Charlottesville, you saw what happened there. The Pittsburgh synagogue shooter. I mean, the number of crimes where now dozens of people have been murdered, it's astounding. They are saying what's motivating them. It's this idea that these people are invaders and therefore they can be responded to with military-style force.
Yeah, and it just makes me wonder because we keep hearing from colleagues on the other side, some of these witnesses, that I guess the rate doesn't matter or the data doesn't matter. And what really matters are the families and the victims, which I 100% agree with, but then they completely disregard the families and victims of immigrant communities because of the hateful rhetoric that they are pushing. What about the friends and families of victims who have been murdered in schools across this country because my colleagues refuse to do anything to end gun violence? Does that matter? I guess not. We've already seen how this hateful anti-immigrant rhetoric has been taken up by bad actors to justify horrific violence against everyday Americans. And for example, when a gunman walked into a Walmart store, killing 23 people and injuring another 22. Almost exactly a year ago, Oversight Committee Democrats called on Chairman Comer and every Oversight Republican to condemn this rhetoric. Mr. Chair, I ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter dated March 6, 2023 from Ranking Member Raskin to Chairman Comer, yet again inviting you to condemn white nationalism and white supremacy in all forms, including the Great Replacement theory.
Without objection.
Not only have my Republican colleagues refused to condemn this extreme rhetoric, but they've also invited witnesses here who keep pushing it. I mean, we have Mr. Chapman, a sheriff, who should really be focused on the real causes of crime and violence. Under his watch, gun-related injuries surged by 57% in 2021. Mr. Chapman, I have one simple question for you. Do you know who your county sheriff's office pays to do the firearm disposal and how much you pay them for your firearms disposal?
I would argue the statistics that you just mentioned about our...
That's not the question I asked, Sheriff. I just want to know...
I think it's important to correct the record.
I'd like to know who your office pays for firearm disposal and how much you pay them.
Our firearms are handled by our firearms unit, and any disposal will come under them.
Okay, gotcha. Many law enforcement agencies contract with disposal companies. And something that is of grave concern to me is that a lot of these companies are not doing what they've promised, and they're not destroying firearms, and we're seeing these firearms being put back on the streets, which is why I introduced my bill, Destroy Zombie Guns Act, which would make serious reforms to help keep all Americans safer. I implore my colleagues on this committee to co-sponsor the bill and to join me in fighting for real positive change for public safety for all people. Thank you. I yield back.